Got another KSL match here. It's a semifinals. Best of 3. I have not been able to cast one of these guys for a while, so that's why I'm looking forward to this PvP. Plus, it's a fun matchup. In the top left for Twisted Minds, he is Classic. He is going to the EWC. Trap spawns on the bottom right. He is on Gen G. That was right before the deadline of the EWC Club Championship Team Pickups deadline. It was like at Dallas, the day before the deadline or something like that. Unfortunately, the possibility of Trap making to the EWC was extremely low. As good of a player as he has been, and he is returning to form very quickly, it was just extremely low that he would have made it to EWC. So, it was nice for Genji to pick up a good player, but I'm not sure they're going to keep him. Anywho, I thought it'd be a good time to see what Trap's looking like, because I think I've only cast him once, maybe, since he's returned from the military. You all might have heard of some of his victories, though, in Open Cups over players who have not been in the military the last 2 years. So I think he has returned to maybe like 80% of his past form, if he's able to get results like that. But if he was at 100%, he would currently be the leading Protoss, probably. He was the only Protoss really doing extremely well before he went to the military. He was actually winning tournaments, a thing that everyone has noted. To hell and back, it does not happen so much for Protoss anymore. So Trap was kind of the last one. And, you know, we don't know what would have happened had he not left, if the meta would have evolved in not his favor, and he also would have joined the ranks of the close but not quites, like Hero and Classic, in the last, 4 or 5 years. Or if he would have continued being the standout Protoss, who does actually manage to get just that little bit extra to actually get to the finals, to actually win them. Because a lot of the Protosses right now, it really is like close but not quite. Oh, you're playing really well, you're playing really great, you're doing absolutely fantastic. Ling run by. Ow. Sorry, buddy. This is Korean Protoss versus Protoss. I was like, totally expecting both of them go 2 gateway versus 2 gateway, but that is actually not the case. Classic going for 1 gateway, then into a Stargate Max Pack style. Max Packs is the star when it comes to the style, though, no doubt about it. Well, Classic, I'm sure it can do a beautiful edition of it. I'm sure it'll be fine, but it's Max Packs who does this the best. And when it does come to Koreans and Protoss versus Protoss, like, typically aggression. That's why I thought Classic would also go 2 gateway. But now that it is the case here, Trap knows about the 1 gate expand as well. It's very possible that he will try and stop this. No, he will not. He's going to go for a Nexus. He hid a pylon, but just to hide it. Classic did scout and maybe got a little scared. Like, no second pylon. That's why he's scouting around right now. But he's done everything that he should. He's continuing to scout. He's got a shield battery. Oracle still is going to pop out first. He doesn't panic and overblow the issue. He's like, okay, this could be a fake pylon. And thus, once he realizes that it is, as he has seen, not the pylon, but he saw the Nexus, that's fine. He knows that he's not in a lot of trouble. So the game will continue on. He gets away with a faster Nexus by a considerable amount. The actual probe difference doesn't have to be all that bad. If Classic has any hesitation when it comes to chronoing his probes or even building probes, because he is a little concerned about what his opponent is doing, that can affect the probe count. If he wants to prioritize other things with his probe count, because he's already happy with how ahead it is, then maybe Trap could catch up. And eventually, they will actually be on an even probe count, because both of them will saturate 2 bases. Twilight Council coming down now for Classic. He got an Oracle and a Void Ray, despite being under no pressure. So that Void Ray is looking a little awkward right now. But even with that Void Ray, his Blink still is very close to his opponent's. So that's one thing you would hope to have as the non-1 gate expand Stargate player, is maybe superior Blink timing. But we have seen a lot of games like what Classic's been playing here where it's not that different. The Void Ray, weirdly enough, finding an opportunity to shine. It's kind of protecting the Oracle to an extent as well. That one Stalker will go down, but now the Void Ray is dead. Dead, dead, dead. Maybe could have survived it. It also tried to escape immediately, but it wanted to sacrifice itself, I suppose, for the greater good, which is the Oracle surviving. That is more useful. Revelation, Stasis Trap, Pulsar Beam. All pretty good stuff to still have, even though right now the Oracle harassment isn't going to be very promising. Stasis Traps, Revelation still very useful. You know, I would say right now, actually, the only bad thing for Classic is that he did build a Void Ray. That ended up being kind of useless. But his Blink, as I was saying, is pretty normally timed. In fact, he's pretty confident in his ability to defend. He even gets the faster third Nexus. Yeah, by 10 seconds, 15 seconds. That's not ideal for Trap, I want to say. Trap seemingly unfazed. Check the income. You can see that Classic does have a boost. Now it's also a question of whether they're making probes to saturate their third. Trap still is. Classic still is. Alright, so that's not going to be, I think, the big difference then. Oh, that was nice. That was a stasis trap on the low ground. That was actually quite cool. It seems like Trap kind of anticipated it, though. He has had very consistent hallucination scouts. 7 probes go down to the Stalker harassment. No, sorry. A couple of more probes going to go down to Adept harassment. Oracle still alive, though. Helps out just the tiniest little bit. Adepts will shade away or die. They both died. Great job, Oracle. Great job. Or maybe they shaded it into the natural when they died by the Stalkers. That makes more sense. 8 probes go down. All right, so Classic is now behind by 4 probes. That's not too bad. He has a slightly superior army. Maybe more than slightly. Depends on if these force fields, if these sentries are actually useful. But it is a very close Stalker count, and a shield battery will 100% make up for any direct engagement, which is why Classic is eyeing this main base. He's got the Oracle for the high ground vision. He's got the sentry here to help out on possibly a retreat. And he did just depower 2 gateways. Oh, the Oracle goes down. Kind of sucks. The hallucination now from the sentry will provide high ground vision, if that's how Classic still wants to play it. But look at this! Look at this! Oh! That is pretty cool, actually. I did not expect that. You always think of the force field on the main base, so that's not something that the sentry could reach. The natural, though... Okay, okay. It still isn't nearly as punishing as that main base one, or just in general, because Blink was done. But obviously, Trap needing to be very careful about blinking earnestly over those force fields, because then he just goes into a Blink fight without Blink. Not ideal. So he plays it as patiently as he can. He's kind of just, you know, swatting flies right now. Like, stop it, stop it, stop it. And we're getting a 4th base. And he's keeping his head on above water. Classic is trying to push him down with that, but basically missed. Like, the head was so slippery, he just kind of missed it. And if nothing, I don't think that was at all at any point ever game-changing, game-ending, but it is these moves that then you watch the action, and you're like, okay, that maybe like directly didn't do that much, but then indirectly, you check back on the numbers, you check back on the production tab, and there's something missing. And right now, for Trap, what we'd be missing is that +2. He is later to it. Classic ahead by 20 seconds. Both of them now going to have charge, both of them having Templar Archives. Once again, Classic just the tiniest little bit ahead. He's also ahead now by 6 workers. So there was a little bit of a dip for Classic when Trap did his probe damage, but otherwise Classic, I mean, it feels like he's been in the lead a little bit at every moment of this game. But not enough that a poor battle wouldn't change everything about it. There's, I think, definitely a good chance, in fact, that one person will have a superior engagement, and then they will end up winning. Trap setting up for an attack, both of them with War Prisms. It's Classic who's closer to the +2 attack timing that we can see often in PvP, though. Yet it is Trap who's actually moving out. He could attack into a real anti-timing if he's not careful. I think he saw the Warp Prism or something and has gone to check it out. Zelnaga is going to see it. Hello. Classic thought there might have been an opportunity to maybe even snipe a Warp Prism if he had known it was there. I think he was just looking around for the army. Not going to be able to find it. +2 finishes for Classic right into that +3. That's very good macro. And then that +2 is almost done for Trap, but not quite. But Classic, not even with clicking on the units, might not feel confident of actually taking the engagement, or maybe he will. +2 still in effect here for Classic. He should have a good battle. It seems like both Zealot lines are being thinned out, both of them getting reinforcements to the front line, but it's Trap's Zealot numbers that are actually more impressive. They get on top of the Immortals, waste a lot of those shots there. And actually, Trap will push through a really similar army, but the opposing army had superior upgrades. How did that happen? We'll check back in a second, but it looks like Trap might actually be able to push this to victory. No shield battery over here, a cannon that's not helping out, and probes are being pulled for no real good reason. This is pretty much over. GG. I think Classic also is going to be like, what, huh? Nah, it's 3 Immortals to 3, man. Alright, let's really break it down here. Equal number of Stalkers, equal number of Immortals. 1 more Archon for Trap. A couple more Sentries. Zealots initially superior for Classic. Only 1 Archon shooting really for Trap to begin with. Zealot number is actually still very similar, even though it looks like... Well, yeah, no, they both really got thinned out at the exact same time. One of the big differences here... Zealots of Trap get on the front line. Oh, and the 1 Archon he had was being target fired or accidentally, purposely, whichever one. So that goes down. So you don't have a really solid way of handling Zealots, where Trap still has 2 Archons, and the Zealots kind of derps. Then the Immortals get way less useful. It is unfortunate because he technically didn't have to take that battle. I mean, I thought it looked good too. Like, he had an upgrade lead and a relatively similar army. So upgrade lead, you think, would kind of push that over the edge. But he didn't have to take that fight, actually. He, you know, could have continued playing into the later stages of PvP. And he definitely wouldn't have died if he had run back to safety. But I can't really blame him for taking that fight. Seems like a good one. It's true. You should definitely give sentries more credit in those battles now that they do better versus shields. Trap's reinforcements actually weren't that much higher in number. I was keeping track of that Zealot count. It was 11 to 12 after they both reinforced with Zealots. It just looked much worse for Classic. Oops. Game number 2 is going to be on Amphion. Top side it is Classic, bottom side it is Trap. A note from the chat here. The couple of additional sentries, I mean, they actually are a little punchier than they are usually. They were, usually, because of the additional versus shields. I also meant to track if they, you know, one person was more consistent about Guardian Shield than the other, but forgot. Now that I think that was really what mattered. I mean, the Archon versus Zealot dynamic, I think, is really what shined in that battle for Trap. Why don't players make wide sentry force field walls? Because, well, multiple reasons, I suppose. Sentries are kind of expensive, so you don't, you have to be careful making too many sentries, because in a direct fight, they aren't that useful. Particularly when they're facing non-shield units, so Terran and Zerg. They're not, they themselves are not good units. Force fields are. There's a lot more units that now break well, not a lot more, but there's more units that break force fields, so force fields used to be really amazing versus Zerg, and now they're just, situational, because Ravagers exist. In PvP, Archons eventually exist, and so force fields are sometimes very much highlighted in the initial stages of PvP, for sure. But as the game goes on, it's not as highlighted. Corrosive Bios really changed it, and I think what we were seeing was a lot more force fields in ZDP. They stopped being, you know, the most useful tool in the Protoss arsenal versus Terran. Back in Wings of Liberty, there's some early Wings of Liberty games where you can find one force field just denying the only push Terran does. And it's a stupid game and no one likes it. But, you know, and then it just kind of was like, yeah, useful in some situations, but not always. They're very situational. I mean, they're a spellcaster. They're a support unit. And when you added in units that broke force fields, it's kind of makes sense. We don't see them as much as we used to, and the Immortal Sentry all-in isn't as good for multiple reasons, but one of them is the breaking the force fields. We got another classic 1-git expands, except this one makes, I guess, even more sense because it has this natural wall. In this ramp, rather. Trap was actually going to do the same exact thing. It came down to who could block each other's nexus better for longer, and really, they both got them around the same exact time. It is interesting to see Trap just, you know, agree to this 1 gate versus 1 gate. Because Classic is the one that's pushing it, it feels like. He did it in the first game, now he's doing it in the second game. It feels like it's his thing that he's doing at this point in time. Whereas Trap, just from feeling, I don't actually know, might not have pre-planned this. He might be changing it up because of the last game, but he might not be as well practiced in it because he's not pushing the issue again. Like, Classic is trying to push this and is trying to maybe perfect and get good practice with it. And Trap might be following him more than setting his own narrative. But of course, this could all be pointless, or it could be way more overblown than it actually is. Trap might be a little less practiced in this, but he still knows what he has to do. Second Stargate's on the way, as they both kind of admit that it's Phoenix versus Phoenix time. And, you know, he did the build correctly and try to block the Nexus. All good stuff. But I suppose if Classic wins this game, I will kind of conclude that Classic is the one leading with this, and Trap might even play game 3 back to the 1-gate expand. Could also, or sorry, to the 2-gate. Sorry. It might also be that he 1-gate expand because it is the map that it is. That's fair. Phoenix versus Phoenix battles! Yay! They're actually not that entertaining. It's a lot of nothing until it happens, and then it happens decisively one way or the other. Much like Muta battles. But we see far less Muta battles than Phoenix battles nowadays, because Protoss make up the majority of the round of 32s. That used to be the Zergs slot, you know? There's just a bunch of Zergs that you kind of knew, but not really, that were filling up those ranks, and now it's all Protoss. Okay, Phoenix versus Phoenix battle. Let's count them. Classic, I think I should start off with a little bit better micro, but, well, he was clumped more, but it didn't actually end up mattering. Because Trap's reinforcing Phoenix could not have come at a better time. And he does win the Phoenix War. Maybe not enough to actually end the game. We do have Classic's instant reinforcements versus Trap's rallying, and a 2 Phoenix difference might not have been enough. 1 Phoenix difference certainly isn't, and this actually was a little bit of a overextension from Trap. Count them up, man. They're still producing 2 Phoenix at a time. No point in showing you production tab. Good focus fire there on the weakened Phoenix. Trap was a little bit later to that. It's good pullback as well from Classic. The micro is being highlighted, and one now it's just a numbers issue, so that's easy to call. And Trap, I think he actually did overstay his welcome. He couldn't push the issue when he did have a superior Phoenix count. He didn't get to camp 1 Phoenix producing at a time. He missed that opportunity. And then simply, I think, overstayed the aggression because he was reinforcing later just with size of the map. And I think he might die because of that. Classic also showed off some of his micro skill, and that's always nice, but kind of feeling more like Trap just should not have been out on the map like he was. For as long as he was. He does manage to trade out that last Phoenix, but he is now going to be camped. That is enough Phoenix. GG's. Classic does win the 1-gate expand Phoenix versus Phoenix War, and now we head into game 3. No shield batteries. No, I mean, I think they probably should have. But it's not actually all that uncommon to see that because there is a big mineral. You're very tight on minerals and gas up to a certain point. I don't know exactly when that point is, but I guess it's when you're too base saturated. And then you do start to accumulate minerals, I think. And what they were starting to do was that they were starting to put pylons down. Both of them were. Neither one of them had a shield battery. Because that is what it kind of happens in PvP. And a shield battery absolutely would have been useful with the first Phoenix battle going poorly for Classic, for instance. It would have definitely made up for a Phoenix and a half of a difference. But it doesn't make up for like a 3 or 4 Phoenix difference. So it's like, if I lose, I lose, is I think a lot of the mentality with that. And then pylons being placed down instead, you can block people's third bases with pylons because they don't have anything that shoots buildings. No, it's 100. It's saying exactly the pylon. So that's why I was like, you know, he probably could have gotten a shield battery instead and then maybe hung on for a little bit longer. But they do start to put mineral sinks into like the pylon blocks. No, it's 100% 100 minerals. Like, I'm very confident about this. I'm actually not the best person to ask about specific number questions. Like, you asked me, like, how fast is a probe attack? And I'm like, the fuck? Who knows that? But Pig will probably know it, and I'll be like, all right, fine. But I'm really quite sure about the shield battery cost. And it is the final match. In the bottom left, it is Classic. Then top right of Post Youth, it is Trap. Classic did end up winning that Phoenix vs. Phoenix battle. But, you know, I said, like, oh, if he wins this game, I'm kind of going to give him more of the nod for the 1-gate expand rather than Trap. I think I still do. Because maybe Trap does 1-gate. Actually, I'm not sure what their plan is here. It's a very odd map for PvP. Anyway, yeah, maybe that is true. Maybe I was right in my assessment. Classic is the one that's really pushing that narrative, and Trap was kind of like, I guess I'll do it. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. But it's also that Phoenix vs. Phoenix is just really silly. So you can see better micro and you can see better decisions, but it's kind of just a silly matchup. So I don't actually give it a lot of thought when I see that happen. It's more or less like Classic, I guess, continues to really be the one that feels like he's pushing the tone of this PvP. You know, Trap might have been fully prepared to go mano a mano, 2-gate to 2-gate in that very first game, and he was like, "Oh wait, hold on, okay, that's what you're doing. Okay, well, okay, yeah, like I can deal with that. That's fine." And he played a totally fine game, and I would say that, you know, more than a fine game because he won, right? But then the second game, and now this third game, we have Classic going for a Nexus first. That's a really bold statement in PvP, but he's doing it because of the map. Where Trap is doing a 1-gate expand, he also is trying to play a little bold. But as far as boldness is concerned, the Nexus first was way more. And it does just win in this situation, no? Trap is half-weighing it right now. Okay, well now he's changing it so it's just like full on, but that's probably what he has to do. But right now, since he's not quite full macro and he's not quite full aggression, trying to beat full macro isn't so easy. And maybe he tries to form now his build into direct aggression with his proxy Stargate. We'll see if it works. We'll see if there's enough time. Classic undoubtedly delays his 7x score a lot with this. So the lack of technology is the sore point. The lack of actual units is also a sore point, as that pylon gets awfully low. But your 7x score is late, your Stargate's late, or whatever else tech building you're going to get. That is a big problem. The pylon is going to live by the looks of things. It looks like Trap stopped attacking it for a little bit. I was going to say, he could definitely kill it. Oh, shit, that's Classic Sentry. Pops out on the wrong side. Helps a little bit. I mean, it helped to delay the death of the pylon, which was already slightly delayed because Trap stopped focusing it. Recoil on that sentry as well. What the hell? That sentry, I don't think it was meant to push out that way. I think it was just a SimCity issue. But not only does it help with the force, but it also scouts and survives. way to go, Sentry. 2 shield batteries now in play with that pylon up and running to the 2 gateways. Here comes the Void Ray, however, and that's what I was trying to get to. That additional technology is going to be difficult. But since Classic does have 2 gateways running, and Trap does not quite have his yet, it's a battle of similar production, but Stargate tech kind of versus the static defense of the Defender, kind of is what's happening here. They both have 2 gateways now, and they both producing as many gateway units as they can, while also producing Void Rays and shield batteries apparently for Trap. But Classic 1 can easily afford shield batteries, and that's a huge difference. And then 2 would just have defense advantage in general. He has a shield battery. He has a probe pool. He has still slightly faster reinforcements, even though there's a proxy gateway up here now. And I think with all the shield batteries he was able to easily make because of his supercharged economy, shield battery overcharge saving that gateway too, I think he has a pretty good setup here. He will have to replace his gateways with the shield batteries, giving the Void Ray such a powerful position. But again, he's able to afford that because he got this Nexus first, because he has a now almost 10 worker lead. I'm actually a little surprised, but I guess at that point he knew his second warp gate was going to die, or second gateway, excuse me, not warp gate. He knew his second gateway was going to die. He couldn't have used his minerals elsewhere. Puts him in the probes. Now the probes have to be pulled. He's trying to shoot down a Void Ray. It will get shot down. Not enough shield battery energy to save these Void Rays. That last shield battery is going to not quite be done in time. Seconds of difference here. Classic finding that opportunity. Excellent use of a probe pool as well, just enough to bother the ground army from attacking his stalkers that were focus firing, but then pulling them back once they did their job. So only 3 probes died, and it is a 10 worker difference as Classic also dominates the army supply. Excellent hold. Just a really strong build, basically. Like, it just is a strong play to go for a Nexus first in PvP. But Post-Youth is that map where it's kind of possible. Trap was not prepared for such extreme greed and kind of had to figure out a way to get aggressive, and it wasn't a terrible idea at all, but wasn't quite enough.